And here we are again, as all great truths do, coming right back up again and right back around again. And I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about the group, so to speak, that began this idea of do no harm. And I love these little statements that they left that I couldn't wait to share with everybody today. The do no harm rules. Okay? Is that Girl Scouts? Okay. Do No Harm is a nonprofit organization. If you think you're a member, you're a member. If you think you're not a member, you're an honorary member. There are no dues or fees. There are no donations. There is no official language or terminology. There are no approved or disapproved concepts. There is nothing special that you must believe. There is nothing special that you must do or not do, except one thing. You must do no harm. P.S. Although not required, a sense of humor is helpful. I just love that, and I think it's so interesting. When I first saw that sticker again, my heart went out to all the ways that I sometimes fall asleep at the wheel. And I don't know about you, but there's just something about Earth School. I get these great ideas. I have these wonderful thoughts. I go out and I start doing whatever it is. Time goes by, and little by little, I find my way merging back to some old pattern or behavior. Am I the only one that does that? And I remember thinking that I love the idea of do no harm because it is the quintessential spiritual quality of who we are. Is to truly understand spirituality is to truly do no harm. And yet, I bet there's some ways that we don't consciously think that we are possibly doing some harm. What are some of the ways that we unconsciously may put out a little harm here and there? Huh? Gossiping would definitely be one. And yet I bet if you were to interview the gossipers, they would have great love for the person they're gossiping about. It's just that they forgot, right? What else? What's another way that we, and as a society, as a group of people, have a tendency without thinking to do a little harm? Judgment. Big time. That is like the neon sign of do no harm. When we judge another, it is because we are so judging ourselves. Right? What's another way?
Aggressive.
What? Or reclusing, or A Course in Miracles would say, to withhold our love. How many of you have gotten mad at your friend or spouse and said, I'm not speaking to you? I'm not speaking to you. Never. That is harmful, believe it or not, because what we are doing in that instant is withholding our love. What's another way that we inadvertently do a little harm here and there?
Yeah, passively aggressive.
Wasting. And I'm going to get that other comment I just heard from John back there. Wasting. And this is just such a great way. I love everything that's happening in the environment right now. And it wouldn't be happening if we hadn't had the big red flags go off as they have. I mean, this is just an exciting time in history because we are actually doing something about the issues. We're not just talking about them anymore. Many of us and lots of big companies are putting everything into healing the problem. And that is awesome, is it not?
Right on.
Yes.
And it took everything that came before this to make that happen. We've had many talks in this center about our perceived idea of darkness always has inherent within it the light. That always, when we go into these places of sadness and despair, inherent within it is the light. Because it is when we are in it that we become acutely conscious of what we really want. Yes?
Yeah.
What's another way that we inadvertently do a little harm? Sarcasm. When we, that's something that, I don't know about you guys, but growing up in the 70s and 80s, sarcasm was the main form of humor. It was the main, back in those days, all the top comedians, well, I shouldn't say all, huh? Archie Bunker. Don Rickles, so many of the, actually I would say probably most, George Carlin. So many comedians got laughs at the expense of another. And at the time we were all like, ha ha ha, it's so funny. Unless it was about us. Then all of a sudden we had something to say about it. What's another way, John, that we do harm?
Being passively aggressive.
Passively aggressive. And what are some of the ways that shows up?
Just being mean to people, verbally or psychologically.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. Psychologically. Because passively aggressive, as far as I understand you, is that I have a smile on my face, but in my head I'm like... So, a week ago today, I thought I was going to be standing right here a week ago today, and then a few days before a week ago today, I got a call from the senior minister at Unity at Maui. And she called and she said, listen, you're on the island and we are kicking off the United Nations International Global Peace Conference. And she said, I wanted to know if you would kick it off for us. And so I was so touched by that, but mostly I was really surprised at my own ignorance. I did not know it was the 26th Annual Universal Global International Day of Peace. So I'm like, okay, God, you really have a sense of humor. Because I'm showing up to kick it off, and inside I was like, I've been asleep at the wheel. This is, and you know how I am. You guys know me well enough to know that for me, Valentine's, Christmas, birthdays, all those days, is every day. That I find it humorous that we take one day and make it a big deal when really every single day is special too, right?
Yay.
Yes, every single day. And so as I kicked it, this is with cats like Ram Dass. How many of you know who Ram Dass is? That's the company that I got to keep in terms of kicking this conference off, and it was phenomenal. And you know what I love so much about Maui is that the islands, you can go so many places on the islands, and these beautiful places, and I took Reverend Karen to this cultural center, and at this outdoor public cultural center, here are these, those koi fish that are like hundreds of dollars, and they're like this big. Isn't it interesting that they're just living their life on the island in Maui and nobody's stealing them? Nobody's like going in there, I'm going to get this fish, maybe a egret or something. But basically, there they are. And I looked at Reverend Karen and I said, isn't it amazing that on this island you can go just about anywhere? How about this? When you're driving around the island, there are these little boxes set up. And inside are flowers and baked goods and lotions and creams. And a little note that says, be honest. And so you can purchase these things and put the money in there and go take your pineapple on the side of the road and eat it. And it made me think, wow, there is something about the vibrational frequency of the people in these islands. There is a peace, there is a natural desire to preserve and to be devotional to Divine Mother, as the island is Pele and her brother Maui. And the most beautiful parts for me is that the trip started by me marrying John and Chris right over there. I didn't expect them today. I thought they were in Santa Cruz, but they like to surprise me. So I started the trip off marrying the two of them, and it was just phenomenally beautiful and it was just magical, that whole experience with many of my dear friends. And then I ended the trip kicking off the United Nations Global International, everybody should know it, Kim Peace Conference. For me, it really gave me a sense of what do no harm is when you truly understand it. They have a lot of sayings on their t-shirts that say, practice aloha. Practice it. When we practice it, aloha is more than a word. It's a feeling. It's a peace. It's a gentleness. It's a willingness to be okay. Really funny, I had just come from here after many, many months of Dr. Patty and I working at high speed to get things going. And so I get to the island, I'm like, and you know what happens in Maui, don't you? Take it easy. 15 miles an hour, and I'm like, Don't they know I have to get somewhere? And it literally took me about 5 or 6 days to get my aloha on. It took me a while because I noticed that my entire being was kind of like this everywhere I went, and I was tripping because I would notice the people around me on the islands. They would all be like, "It's cool. You're a little uptight. It's cool. Hang loose." Yeah, and the music and all of the ways, the tribal ways, so preserved, Divine Mother. So beautiful. And I thought, wow, here I am kicking off this United Nations global peace, and I'm going to my center that I get to be with the people that I'm madly with and take this aloha with me back to my center and share it with all of you. And so that's when I talked to Dr. P and I said, the talk title is going to be Do No Harm. Because I began to think about all the ways that I allow this frantic energy. You know, I thought that was LA's fault. I came from Southern California, so I thought, oh, it must be their fault. But you know what? I haven't been there in about 20 years, and I'm still like this. And so I started to realize, wow, you know, there's something that happens when you're on the island. We were there. I was there actually almost 17 days. Something happens to us. I mean, each day I kind of got a little bit looser. And then all of a sudden, you know, I hear, "Hey, girls, you want to go to breakfast?" I don't know. Want to go to the beach? Maybe later. You know, Chris and John walking down from the timeshare. "You guys want to just pop a beer and have a seat?" Cool. It was so beautiful, and I thought, how can I sustain this? How can I keep this aloha, this do no harm energy? I want to just ooze it. And so I started thinking about all the ways that we get ourselves sort of uptight and all tense is because of our attachment to the outcomes, really. That we have this attachment. We say, you know, this person should behave this way, or when I get to this place, the food should taste this way, or this clothing article should look that way on me instead of this way on me. And, you know, we have the pain body mind is so busy being attached to how things should be that harm is inevitable. And this is where in the East, and I have to say as well as on the islands and all the tribal traditions, they're not attached to things. They go out and fish, they don't catch a fish, they're like, "Oh, we'll eat papayas." It's not like, "Oh my God, I didn't catch a fish, I'm a failure and a loser, and I'm going to go into therapy for the next 5 years." And yet we do this to ourselves. We question ourselves and we say, "Well, if I'm not this or that, then I'm nothing." That's harmful. It's very harmful. It's very harmful when we recognize all the things that we don't pay attention to. So let me share this next part with you guys from this wonderful Do No Harm group. Has no one taught us to do no harm? If we haven't been taught to do no harm, we see no harm in doing harm. We cause harm and we shrug it off. We cause harm and we laugh about it. We cause harm and we brag about it. Sadder still, our children bear witness to our actions and never learn to do no harm themselves. Above all else, we must teach our children by example and instruction the basic moral principle of life to do no harm. We must begin to make better choices. Now that one for me really struck a chord.